Now, reverse engineering is a great concept or a great aspect to understand. First of all, we need to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish when it comes to reverse engineering. It's actually kind of like a step-by-step or a plan, and in it you're trying to discover how the attack is actually completed or done, who was responsible for the attack, as well as where did it actually originate. And of course, now that we know we've been attacked, what was actually affected. And we can do that through several tasks or techniques. We can decompose code by using debuggers or decompilers. But one of the best ways is actually playing in a sandbox. Now, when we talk about sandboxing, it's strictly just an environment designed to run untrusted or exploitable code in a way that prevents the code from damaging the rest of the system. And we wouldn't limit ourselves just to apps themselves, but we'd also include, again, looking at code and legitimate software. Now, in order to perform reverse engineering on malware, it does require you to do things like, disconnect the host that's infected so it's physically isolated from the network. And this particular machine or this particular host should only be used for the purpose of analyzing malware. Now, virtualization has really helped us out a lot here. I know a lot of people that do this in a VM world, but you have to be really careful here because you got to keep up on the host itself that's hosting the VMs. There are multiple vulnerabilities for hypervisors that can be exploited by the malware. Now, when it comes to hardware, there's a couple things that we can do. Most of the time, we have to depend on off-the-shelf products or websites. And companies can only gain a limited amount of knowledge or assurance about the security of that particular product. Essentially, we have to take the publisher's statement that the things that they are doing or the software they're providing is secure. And this typically gets published as OEM documentation or product white papers. You should review those because I guarantee if an attacker discovers that you're running this particular piece of software, he's going to be looking at it to see if there's any vulnerabilities associated to it. Now, for companies that process high-value data assets, and I would include military in this, and this is probably where it comes from, they have to be able to verify every stage of the supply chain for the manufacturing of the devices they're bringing in. So the Department of Defense set up the Trusted Foundry program that goes through and accredits suppliers, that forces suppliers to prove themselves capable of operating a secure supply chain. This way here, the organization can be assured that all the electronics running their software and data processing doesn't contain any backdoors or remote monitoring or control mechanisms. Now, some organizations will have the full capability to control their supply chains. They're able to establish a trusted computing environment in which they know that the operation of every element, from operating system to drivers to firmware to hardware to chips to application, is consistent and tamper resistant. Now, I personally have several thoughts on this concerning certain governments, but I'm not going to say it because more than likely they're monitoring me right now.